Hello everyone and welcome back to JAS Reviews. My name is James, and on this channel I do reviews of both music and movies, along with the occasional commentary piece. If any of that sounds interesting to you, then please feel free to give this video a like, and to subscribe to my channel to see more content like that. But what are we doing today? Well, today we are talking about the newest album from Architects, For Those That Wish to Exist. Architects is a band that I used to not really be able to get into back in the day, because back in the day I definitely wasn't as open-minded to certain genres, but Architects were one of the bands that definitely opened my mind to especially the more intense avenues of metalcore, especially when I first heard their album Lost Together, Lost Forever, which I still think is a superb release, and was really, I think, a good release to start on with them, because even at this point, when I am familiar with the whole of Architects' discography, I still consider this album to be a very important one for Architects. I would say that Architects is one of the most influential bands of their genre, and they proved that yet again with All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us, which is still a modern metalcore masterpiece to me. Just superb in pretty much every way possible. Holy Hell came out after that, and it was really a very profound album. While I didn't like it as much as All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us, this album is still a tough listen even now, as it highlights the band's feelings on the loss of Tom Searle, and they navigate it in some truly powerful ways. With the passing of Tom Searle, who the band said was instrumental in albums like Lost Together, Lost Forever, and All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us, I was very curious to see where the band would go next. And with the lead singles from this new album, For Those That Wish to Exist, it was clear that they were going to be evolving their sound, which wasn't necessarily surprising to me. Animals definitely set the stage for what this album was going to be like, with its very synth-heavy instrumentation, and it feeling very electronic in ways, and much more accessible than almost anything that Architects had released in the past. Black Lungs was the second single, and honestly, it came out even better to me and left me even more excited for this album. So, what did we get out of Architects' latest release? Man, was this album just incredible. Now, I've already been seeing some mixed reactions to it on the site that I use to rate my music, which is also called Rate Your Music, interestingly enough. It's gotten very divisive responses on there, but yet, from what I can tell of Architects fans, they seem to be pretty happy with the album, so I'm not really sure how the feelings of this album are overall. I absolutely love this release. There are so many things to commend about this album from beginning to end. Thematically, this album is very clearly tackling a couple of different things, but I would say at its center, it's talking about the human condition of how we are wanting to exist, but still we don't acknowledge the things that are killing us, ironically, whether that be the real world problems of pollution and things like that, or whether it be problems of the heart. The band quickly establishes this theme with Do You Dream of Armageddon, a very atmospheric intro that really gets you into the vibe of this album almost right away. I really love the foreboding feel the song has. Right after this, we get into Black Lungs, which I would say is one of the more conventional Architects songs on the album, so it doesn't surprise me that they released this as a single, but this still ends up being one of my favorite on the release. I think Black Lungs does such a good job at setting the stage for what the rest of the album is going to feel like, at least in terms of themes, not necessarily in terms of sound, because like I said, this one is more conventional Architects, but still, this song is just an undeniable fun time. Sam Carter is very confident in his screams and in his cleans, creating one of the catchiest choruses that Architects has ever penned. I like how the band uses Black Lungs as both a literal representation of the condition of black lungs and a metaphorical one. A literal in the sense that we are polluting our world and we are giving our younger generation probably a more likelihood of getting sick or dying from pollution, but also black lungs in a metaphorical sense in that we are polluting ourselves by living in this toxic world and not really trying to understand one another. Giving Blood is the first indication of the newer sound we're going to get on this album, the first full indication at least. We already got a hint of that on Do You Dream of Armageddon, but Giving Blood goes into the new sound of this album full force. And if there's any words I could use to describe this album, it would be spacious. The atmosphere here in almost every song feels huge. It feels like you're literally in outer space in some places with just how massive it feels. Giving Blood is definitely proof of this already, with just, once again, a superb chorus and some great guitar work and a fusion of electronics that is seamless. I love how this song constantly stays unpredictable in terms of its pacing. It is such a fun track. Discourse Is Dead is one of the more intense songs on the album, and appropriately so, as Architects attacks the idea that we are not willing to actually talk with one another in terms of politics. We are not willing to have any type of discourse, and if there is any discourse, it is often immediately shut down for one reason or the other. Dead Butterflies is jaw-droppingly beautiful, and I didn't know I'd be able to say that about an Architects song anytime soon, but man, this song is just gorgeous to listen to, with the band instrumentation being a huge shock, but a very welcome surprise. Sam Carter goes into this beautiful falsetto that I just loved hearing, and the dead butterfly symbolism here, I don't exactly want to reveal what it means, because I also do think that it can have multiple interpretations, and I just think this is one of the most special songs on the album. While Dead Butterflies was a huge album highlight for me already, as well as Black Lungs, and Ordinary Extinction should not go without noticed either. As one of the biggest bangers on this album, I just love the guitar riffs in this song, and the way that they combine with the synths is just a wonderful treat to behold. The huge sounding pulsating electronics against the huge guitar riffs creates an atmosphere that is totally appropriate for this song, as the band repeatedly talks about a literal doomsday in this song. In fact, this almost feels like a continuation of the song Doomsday from Holy Hell in some ways. Impermanence comes and goes, and while it isn't one of my favorite songs on the album, I do still enjoy it for its more classic metalcore vibes. This one is another more conventional Architects song, but then we get Little Wonder, which is probably my second or third favorite on the album. This one has like a dark synthwave beat to it that is just totally off the wall for Architects, and the feature of the vocalist Mike Kerr from Royal Blood is a perfect addition here. I love what he does in this track, and he makes it that much more of a jam. And the satirically dark lyrics about the fact that we ignore so many things and we're so happy to do it in this ignorantly happy-go-lucky way are very poignant and very well written. The lead single, Animals, is a song that I could see getting annoying to me over time, especially if I heard it on the radio over and over, because it does have this repetitive quality to it. I just have to say, it's hard for me to resist the song, even in the midst of some of its very admittedly generic tendencies. But it's the next two-track run that proves that it's gonna be the deeper cuts that'll leave the most impact on me. Libertine has this instantly iconic line in "We are the rust worshipping the rain," and the way they expand on that line and explain how we often praise things or worship things that ultimately don't benefit us that much at the end of the day, and we don't realize that we have this toxic relationship with certain things in our lives, is very well done. But then we get what is undoubtedly my favorite song on the album in Goliath. Man, talk about a monster of a song, and appropriately so given the song's title. This one feels as huge as it should, and there's just so many good surprises in this song. It goes from one genre to another with huge confidence. A pattern of this album is that the featured songs are often some of the best. I've already mentioned the one with Royal Blood being really good, and this one also has a feature of Simon Neil from this band called Biffy Clyro, who I've never really gotten into, but his feature is great in this song, and he lets off some of the most intense screams across this whole album. And man, the breakdown in this song, absolutely priceless. One of the best breakdowns that Architects has ever made. The album ends off with two more great songs. Meteor is admittedly, like Animals, a bit of a more arena rock anthem that you've heard before, especially in the verses where it's sort of repeating words in a sort of almost pop rock fashion, but I actually found myself liking Meteor better than Animals because especially of the chorus where it feels really huge in a different way than Animals, and I feel like it's a bit more subtle in what it does. Dying is absolutely safe left me speechless. While I do think A Wasted Hymn works better as a ballad for Architects, this one is still quite gorgeous, and it's even more restrained than A Wasted Hymn was. Simply having an acoustic guitar and some sparse electronics with Sam's beautifully restrained and subtle vocals that are just really touching here and really bring up some powerful emotions in me. Now you'll notice that I have praised almost every single one of the 15 songs here, and that's just because I do not have many problems with this album at the end of the day. I think from beginning to end, it flows incredibly well. There's only 2 weak points that I could possibly identify as far as specific songs go. I think that the song Flight Without Feathers is probably one of the weaker ones here. I don't necessarily hate this track, but I do think that it has a bit of an issue of not being as interesting as it could be. Demigod is probably the only song that I would say I dislike here. Not passionately hate, but I don't really care for it that much. It overstays its 4.5-minute runtime, and I feel like just when it's starting to get interesting, it doesn't really lead anywhere. The bridge of the song is admittedly very intriguing and has some elements that Architects have never done before, and it's probably even more out of left field in some ways than some of the other songs on this album, but it's not enough for me to really appreciate this song. Also, generally, I will say that sometimes the production of this album can be a hindrance in a couple places where Sam's vocals can be drowned out by the electronics, but it is such a minor issue and it barely ever happens. Overall, as you can probably tell, I just loved this album. For Those That Wish to Exist is an excellent evolution for Architects. I think it just works so well in pretty much every way possible. I still don't feel like the band is losing their identity here. What is so key with this album is that while they do change their sounds, they aren't changing who they are as a band, I don't think. There's still a lot of elements here that do feel identifiably Architects. The lyric writing, for one thing, still as sharp as ever. There's still breakdowns aplenty here, and there's still songs where they honor their legacy of old, while still looking forward eagerly to the future. I am giving this one a very, very strong 4.5 out of 5 stars. If it weren't for those couple of weak songs, this one might have gotten a perfect rating. It is so close. So yeah, that was my review of Architect's newest album. What were your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments below. And once again, my name is James. I do reviews of both music and movies, along with the occasional commentary piece. If that sounds interesting to you, then please feel free to subscribe to my channel. And until then, I will see you all in the next video.